Okay, people. So, yeah, we definitely have a different music documentary with the sound of scars, right? This is, well, it's so raw. It is so fucking raw, right? It is directed by Leigh Brooks. She also produces it along with Veronica Bellino, Mina Caputo, Alan Robert, and Joey Zampella. Um, Mina and Joey also handle the music. Cinematography is Richard Lynch. Brooks does the editing. Alan Robert is art direction. Brooks also production management. Roberts is the art. Um, yeah, and then you have Nick Britz, JP Davidson, and Keith Turner also doing some editorial work. Right now, the film uh, it features. Let me try and get this up. Okay, so we got Michael Brulat, right? Phil Abel, Jimmy Bryant, Doyle Wolfingston von Frankenstein, uh, Alan Robert, Joey Zampella, Mina Mina Caputo, Monty Corner, Veronica Bellino, Roseanne Loferendo, Michelle Zampella, Joey's wife, Sophia Zampella, Mia Zampella, Christopher Zampella, his kids. There's Billy Grazadia, Marcia Goldstein, um, Richard Goldstein, Pamela Goldstein, Christine Zagamimi, Gianni Goldstein, and Whitfield Crane. Right, so yeah, that's everyone in the film. Well, yeah, more or less, right? Now the film is about this, right? The story of three lifelong friends who overcame domestic violence, substance abuse, and depression to form Life of Agony, one of the most influential bands in its genre, led by the very first openly transgender singer. Through the success of their groundbreaking 1993 debut, River Runs Red, hailed by Rolling Stone as one of the greatest metal albums of all time, they channeled their cumulative life stories into a soundtrack for a broken generation. This newfound fame allowed them to suppress the tragedies of their past, but in its wake, new obstacles arose. So that was one of the things, right? Coming into like opening up, it's talking about like how they could have been one of the greatest bands if they hadn't have broken up, like originally, that is. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of talk about that. And it's one of those things, right? Because in any kind of documentary about a band, a singer, whatnot, an actor, they always will present it like, yeah, they were the voice of a generation. They were blah, 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 blah. I mean, if you watch Straight Out of Compton, you know what I mean? The women beating was, yeah, subsequently taken out of the film, right? You know what I mean? But everyone knows Drake beat up a lot of chicks, right? Not in the film. So yeah, you sometimes you look at these things with a little grain of salt, right? And be like, is that hyperbole? Right? Now, metal isn't really my genre. It's not my thing. Now, it's not to say I can't appreciate a good song, because I can, people. But yeah, I'd never come across Life of Agony. So I didn't really have a base level to build on with this. But here's the thing. Whether you know the band, love the band, hate the band, whatever, it's not so much that is the, you know what I mean, the underpinning of this film, right? It's the stories, it's the struggle, because you watch it and it's just like, yo, how the fuck did these people like just do this thing? Because they, you know, I mean, you go into all of their stories. Obviously, one of the driving factors is Mina, because it's about how when they first started, um, I think Mina was Brian. I think I want to say Brian. Ugh, yeah, I just watched it. I don't know how I can forget. Oh my gosh. But anyway, right? And it's just we have, you know, Mina talking about that period of time, and then there's these video clips of Brian talking, and you know, reading diary excerpts and all of that, and it's just like, boy, you know what I mean? It just seems like rough, so fucking, you know what I mean, overwhelming, right? And you just be like, yo, I'm surprised they got through, right? When you hear some of the things that were written, right, and the thoughts like just spinning around the dome, right? And that's crazy. Then you hear the stories of like Joey and Alan, and you know what I mean, Mina's sisters, right? And you just understand, like, oh, they were all going through their own fucking personal traumas. And you know, just hearing how the music was the thing that brought them together and helped them just transcend all the other shit, right? And that's fascinating. When you hear about how people overcome situations, that's that's a story worth hearing. You know what I mean? That's something that makes you think, that makes you change your perspective, right? That makes you, I mean, look within, right? And it's just so hearing all of these tales, you're like, yo. And then you see like clips of fans talking and other executives talking and just all these other people, like, you know what I mean, what the band meant to them, you know, which is just, it is fascinating. It really is fascinating, right? You hear from the family, you know, whether it's the wives or the you know, the parents, the cousins, but we hear all of these stories, and it's just like you can see how these situations impact, you know, the peripheral, right? The family, the friends, you know, I mean, just all of that. Because I think sometimes when you hear about people's struggle, right, you just think about them. Now, obviously, it's their struggle, right? So yeah, it's like, yo, that's tough. But hearing also about how it affects those around you, because that's something people always forget, right? It's these things affect a whole wave of people, you know. And obviously you're trying to support someone and make sure they're cool, but it can also have an impact, and so you see that, right? So it's just this fascinating piece that shows all of that stuff. But then we get to see the resurrection, as it were. You know, it's also it's interesting seeing how Whitford Crane fit in and how they were, you know, sustaining, on the outside, but inside it was something a little different. Though Crane did he supposedly did a great job. You know what I mean? But it's fascinating, like hearing all of that stuff, and then with Mina coming back and just hearing about the transition, it's like just all of these things, right? It's just like it paints this picture. It really paints this picture that is so compelling. You know what I mean? So that's why I'm saying, like, whether you know the band, love the band, hate the band, it doesn't really matter. Doesn't really matter. Because the real story is just hearing about these struggles and these mechanisms that they created and they found, which enabled them to get through everything. Like, and there's straight honesty here. You know what I mean? Like, they will talk about how, certain things hurt them, and you know what I mean, how they lost contact for a while, and these were the reasons, and this is what happened to bring them back, and just all of that stuff. And it's just like, damn, that's a like, and it's great because I think oftentimes with these things, people are just like, oh, I don't want to admit to that. I look bad. Or I mean, people are gonna think I'm evil, or you know what I mean? When it's just like, there's human reactions. There's, getting to understand something. There's feeling hurt because of lies, and even when a lie isn't there to be malicious, right? It can still hurt people. So we get all of this, plus we get to see them creating the new record, right? Which is Sounds of Scars, right? um yeah, the sixth joint, right? And so you you find out about all of this stuff. You learn about the troubles, the trauma, the tragedies, and then you see, you see the reemergence. And looking at all the fans and everything, it looks like they are having a whale of the time. Right? And it's interesting because I think, right, most people would probably assume that maybe a metal crowd isn't going to be that accepting, isn't going to really, embrace Mina now. And I think the beautiful thing about all of this is just like, the expression, man, don't judge a book by the cover, right? And it's just like, don't assume, right? And that's what happens when people make these broad, sweeping statements. That Where are you getting that data from, right? Where are you making those assumptions? Because these people about the music, I don't care. They all happy that Mina's found happiness, peace. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's a fascinating documentary because of everything it covers, and the fact that music, though it is a pillar, right, it's not the be all or end all of this piece. So yeah, people, I do really think this is a fascinating story. So the sounds of the scars. Boom. If you like a music documentary, then maybe that's going to be for you.